Samurai 7 Complete Series Review. Samurai 7 came out in 2004 at what you call peak Gonzo, as in the few years before, the animation studio had released the likes of Hellsing, Fullmetal Panic, and Last Exile, shows that even though are still associated with them, and also releasing a new take on an all-time classic when it was an understandable idea from a company riding so high. To obviously look at how Kurosawa's Seven Samurai had already been turned into a popular western, so decided to go in their own unique way with it by throwing in sci-fi themes and a steampunk aesthetic, an idea that doesn't always work, thanks to a mix of stunning painted backgrounds and really poor looking CG objects, especially in some of the spaceships shown when recounting a war that was recently come to an end. You can tell it's the early 2000s, when companies are starting to use CG in their 2D animations, but they had yet to make it look anywhere near convincing. The key to the first half of the story is to ready the classic film, so we have the poor village called Kana who must hire samurai to protect them from bandits. Although in this case the bandits are called Noboseri, and they're samurai from the previously mentioned war, who had themselves converted into machines, and now blindly obey the evil all-encompassing empire that rules the land. So, a tad different. Kana village sent out their water priestess Kirara and two other villagers to find some non-converted samurai to help them, with Kirara possessing a necklace that points towards pure-hearted individuals, as well as water sources, in case you were wondering about the water priestess thing. Over the course of the first few episodes, they hired 7 samurai to help them, and they each correspond to one of the 7 from the original film, shown often with even more exaggerated personalities or weird steampunk twist. Kanbei is the lead samurai, the wise veteran of many battles. Kazushiro is the young samurai who wishes to lead under Kanbei. Korobe, the cheerful samurai, who became a street entertainer after the war. Shichiroji is a samurai who was giving up their life to settle down with a wife and new business, who is nonetheless pulled back into the game by Kanbei and Ko. Kikuchiyo is a large and clumsy samurai with a short temper and is almost entirely a robot. The beat doesn't precisely match with the film. Heihachi is a gentle samurai who much prefers building things to fighting, and Kyozo is a silent and stoic samurai who starts off as an enemy. It's a good mixture of some of the basic character outlines lean ways to heavily in the same few gags, rather than developing them in any way, which gets old quick. The surprise here is that really is only the first half 2/3-ish that adapt the film that it goes off in its own direction for the ending, focusing on the previously mentioned evil empire led by magistrate Ayamaro and his son Okyo. The later is getting some surprisingly interesting plot twists. In fact, it's safe to say that Samurai 7 is a series that gets better as it goes along, being too reliant on often poorly timed comedies to start with, but really goes for it as the series warps up. As mentioned, the visuals are a mixed bag. When it first aired, it was apparently made a big deal of and put on an emerging HD PPV channel before eventually settling into a regular network showing. But honestly, there are moments where this being your first exposure to HD animation, you lead to you to tilt your head in confusion and wonder what the big deal is. Don't get me wrong, there are moments where they have extremely fluid animation and really beautiful backdrops, and it ain't uncommon for TV's 16:9 format, but there are also moments where the opposite is true. Well, apart from the aspect ratio, obviously, the soundtrack by Kaoru Wada and Tatsuo Hayashi is good and uses traditional instruments among other beats for that samurai vibe, even during the moments when they're riding on spaceships, which is a fun sentence to write. Both language tracks are perfectly fine. John the English dub is very much of its time, being early for animation, but thankfully not early enough that they play around with the script too much. Your extras are some commentaries from staff and actors, followed by your usual trailers. Samurai 7 is a fun series that starts off a bit shaky with some running gags that don't really work, but eventually develops into something good enough that you're looking forward to the next episode. Maybe not as must have, but definitely a stick with it and it gets good. It just depends if you're willing to stick with it. 7 out of 10.